If you ever thought that America was the main stage and the rest of the world was just the audience, then look to Canada. A silent wave is changing the global tide. Japan moves factory from California to British Columbia. Thousands of European students are choosing lower tuition fees in Quebec instead of Boston. Even Mexico is shifting its trade northward. Meanwhile, a series of states in the US are falling into a double crisis. Budget deficits, job losses, businesses fleeing, and an American dream gradually shattering. The question is no longer, is that true? But rather, which of our states will collapse first? In today's video, you will see 7 major countries withdrawing from the US, leading to states losing entire economic sectors due to the lack of international customers, students, and partners. Will America still maintain its position, or will it gradually fall behind right in its own backyard? If you feel like this doesn't affect you, wait until the 5th minute, when we reveal that the state is losing 60% of international students in just 2 years, leading to dozens of universities on the brink of closure. Let's get started. If you ever grew up in the post-war era, you will understand this. Germany and America, like two friends shouldering a crumbling world together. From Berlin to Boston, from Frankfurt to Detroit, those two countries not only shared an economy, but also shared ideals. But then, in 2025, everything changed quietly. Germany signed a series of technology and defense transfer agreements, not with the US, but with Canada, a country that many American experts had previously claimed would never surpass the US in the economy. According to a report from the German Economic Statistics Bureau, exports between Germany and the United States have decreased by 12% from 2020 to 2024, while trade relations with Canada have grown by 15% during the same period. An unbelievable contrast. Germany's withdrawal was not loud. No major newspapers reported it loudly. But thousands of engineers in Michigan and Ohio suddenly discovered that their companies had lost their biggest partner. The factories that once received orders from Europe are now cold and silent. The engineers who once took pride in their products going abroad are now diligently fixing plumbing in the town. A 58-year-old man said bitterly, "I spent my whole life working for the German equipment supply chain. They used to need us. Now they don't anymore." What is the most painful thing? No one said goodbye. No official announcement. It's just that they left. And that makes Americans start to wonder, if even Germany, the most loyal friend, turns its back, then who will be left? Instead of waiting for the Germans to return, perhaps it is time for the Americans to look back at themselves, to understand why the hands that once held tightly are now gradually withdrawing. Because trust, once it has cracked, cannot be mended by the past, but must be repaired through change. We cannot sit idly by and hope that our allies will return. We need to actively listen, reform, and reconnect, not just with the world, but with our own community. Germany's withdrawal story is not just an economic issue, but also a profound lesson. When you lose your best friend without understanding the reason, you no longer feel angry. You just feel empty. If you still think that the US is always the best destination for the top students from India, then perhaps you are mistaken. Indeed, for decades, Boston has been the dream destination for every Indian student. Harvard, MIT, the world's top universities, have become the gateway to a bright future. But now, with Canada introducing a post-graduation residency program, the story of studying abroad has changed in an unexpected way. Data from the US Department of Education shows that the number of international students from India has decreased by 10% over the past 2 years, while Canada has recorded a 20% increase in the number of students from India, primarily targeting technology and economics fields. And the reason is not too hard to understand. The opportunity for quick residency after graduation in Canada, visa incentives, lower tuition costs, and most importantly, the opportunity to stay and work in a stable, friendly environment. A family in New Jersey shared, "I used to think my child would study in Boston, But when they saw the opportunities in Toronto, we couldn't go back. Not just because of the tuition fees, but because Canada offers a broader future for my child. But this does not only affect students, it affects the education system and the entire economy of the United States. And the most painful part, it's that no one is doing anything to stop this flow. The story of the New Jersey family is not just a change in their children's educational decisions, but also a lesson in the significant shift in the mindset of a generation that sees the US as the study abroad paradise. What do you think about Indian students moving to Canada instead of the US? Could it be a long-term decision or just a temporary escape? Recently, data from the Canadian government has also indicated that nearly 40% of international students in Canada are from India, a figure that reflects a concerning shift. The US was once the gateway to all opportunities, but today, those doors are gradually closing. And will this change lead to what consequences for the education system and the economy of the United States in the future? The road from Harvard to Victoria Park now seems to stretch longer, no longer a dream path, but a silent separation. America used to be the brilliant sun. Now Canada shines like a star in the night, quietly drawing all eyes. The story of Germany and India is not the whole picture yet. There is another country that is truly reshaping the American economy this year, and this might make the entire US take a second look. Stay tuned for the next part. Until now, Texas has always been seen as the most vibrant part of the US economy, an indispensable part of the global supply chain. But now, something very quiet yet powerful is happening. Service factories, the manufacturing sector, and even major tech companies have started shifting towards Quebec instead of Texas. What actually happened? You might still think that Mexico is a source of cheap labor and only plays a role in raw manufacturing sectors. That's true, but it's now a thing of the past. This year, they are transforming into a true partner of the US in technology, logistics, and even finance, sectors that the US once prided itself on monopolizing. According to a report from the Mexico Chamber of Commerce, 40% of American companies originally oriented towards Texas have now begun to shift to Canada and Mexico to take advantage of tax incentives and investment attraction policies. This is no small matter. It is a structural change in trade that the people of Texas have not yet realized. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. What seems to be hidden is that Mexico has begun to separate from the US in ways you can't imagine. If Mexico is going down this path, can Texas and the entire United States maintain its position in the global supply chain? Tom, a business owner in Texas who has built his career through long-term collaborations with Mexican partners, shared, "I have seen these changes coming for a long time, but when our contracts were gradually surpassed and led by Mexico, I couldn't believe it. First were the service factories, then the major technology partners. Now, even the software companies I used to work with are moving to Montreal. The reason? Low taxes, government support, and an environment that creates opportunities for them." Many Americans, like Tom, believe that what Mexico is doing not only affects us, it is a sign of what is to come for the entire US economy. With Mexico, opportunities are not just long roads. It is building a shortcut to the future. And now, the US is left with only irreversible traces. The ships of the American economy once set sail from Texas. But now, Mexican ships have quietly turned in another direction, and they won't be coming back. But this is not the worst part. Country number 4 will make you change your perspective on the entire American trade system. Once, New York was the place where the wealthy from China came to build their empires. The skyscrapers, the luxurious mansions, all are testaments to the prosperity and unlimited opportunities that America offers. But now, the change has occurred quietly and strongly. China is no longer pouring money into New York. They have found a new refuge, Vancouver, a place with investment-friendly policies, reasonable taxes, and a more welcoming environment for the wealthy. According to the Bank of China, more than 30% of high-end real estate transactions in Vancouver currently come from Chinese investors, while in New York, this rate has dropped to only 12% over the past 2 years. A significant shift in the US real estate market, as New York is no longer the number one choice. But what makes you stop is, it's not just real estate. China is investing in other sectors in Canada that Americans don't realize. And that is the secret behind this transformation. Could this shift shake the US real estate market? And if this continues, who will be the first to suffer the consequences? Mauro, an Italian restaurant owner in Manhattan, where he has spent 40 years building his brand. He shared, "I remember the early days. My restaurant was always crowded, mainly with Chinese customers. But now, those customers are no longer there. The wealthy from China are now flocking to Vancouver, where they can both invest and settle down. And I began to wonder, has the pinnacle we have built over the past century now come to an end? Vancouver, for China, now resembles a speedboat swiftly gliding forward. Meanwhile, New York resembles an old wooden boat slowly sinking without anyone noticing. New York used to be a magnet for the wealthy, but now that magnet has long been lost. Vancouver is gliding gently, like a wave in calm waters, not causing any disturbance, but quietly sweeping everything away. But the story of business people in America right now, like Mauro, is not the end. Let's see this as a time to rediscover and innovate business strategies. If you are like Mauro and have witnessed the capital flow away, don't just sit back and regret. Look at the opportunities that are opening up right in front of you, right where you are standing. For example, instead of relying solely on Chinese customers, Mauro could target other international customers, especially tourists from developing countries. Don't be afraid of change. Instead of feeling left behind, see this as an opportunity to innovate, grow, and renew yourself. It is precisely because of these changes that we can step out of our comfort zones and build a stronger business future in the new environment. China's story with this significant shift has shown us Americans that China is not only changing where they invest in real estate, but is also quietly building a new position in Canada, something that the United States has not realized. Vancouver is becoming a strong competitor to New York, not only in the real estate sector, but also in the technology and service industries, which the US has always prided itself on being number one in. In the past, the world always looked to the United States as the leader in the field of healthcare and biotechnology. From the laboratories in Boston to the research centers in San Francisco, the US has always been the first choice for pharmaceutical companies, medical technology, and researchers. The US Department of Agriculture's National Agricultural Statistics Service reported that in 2023, the export rate of agricultural products from the US to Brazil decreased by 15%, while exports to Canada grew by 20% during the same period. A farmer in Florida shared, "We live by the seasons. But this season, everyone is choosing Canada. Not only because of the low prices, but also because of the incentives they offer to exporters." The US used to be a big door opening to the world of agricultural products, but now that door is gradually closing. Canada is like a new door, gently opening to embrace everything that the US leaves behind. Florida, on the other hand, resembles an old ship being pushed back from the wave of agricultural trade, while Ontario is gliding like a high-speed train, overcoming all challenges. The secret behind this shift? The tax incentives and special support that Canada offers to Brazil, or is there another factor that we are not aware of? These things are not spoken about, but they are precisely what is guiding the future of the agricultural sector. For farmers in America, like John, this is a moment that cannot be missed. Instead of just relying on traditional markets, look for ways to expand and develop sustainably in new relationships. Seek international cooperation opportunities, even with countries like Canada, to ensure that you won't be left behind. In recent years, Canada has established special agricultural export agreements with Brazil, one of the largest agricultural partners of the United States, creating a significant shift in the international agricultural supply chain. Instead of primarily importing from Florida and the southern US states, Ontario has now become a major destination for many agricultural products such as oranges, melons, and nuts. But what makes you reconsider is, Florida is not the only place affected. This shift is creating a wave of profound impacts across all sectors of American agriculture, from small farms to large export companies. The U.S. Department of Agriculture's National Agricultural Statistics Service reported that in 2023, the export rate of agricultural products from the U.S. to Brazil decreased by 15%, while exports to Canada grew by 20% during the same period. A farmer in Florida shared, "We live by the seasons, but this season, everyone is choosing Canada. Not only because of the low prices, but also because of the incentives they offer to exporters." The US used to be a big door opening to the world of agricultural products, but now that door is gradually closing. Canada is like a new door, gently opening to embrace everything that the US leaves behind. Florida, on the other hand, resembles an old ship, being pushed back from the wave of agricultural trade, while Ontario is gliding like a high-speed train, overcoming all challenges. The secret behind this shift? The tax incentives and special support that Canada offers to Brazil, or is there another factor that we are not aware of? These things are not spoken about, but they are precisely what is guiding the future of the agricultural sector. For farmers in America, like John, this is a moment that cannot be missed. Instead of just relying on traditional markets, look for ways to expand and develop sustainably in new relationships. Seek international cooperation opportunities, even with countries like Canada, to ensure that you won't be left behind. Japan, a country renowned for its sophistication in technology and manufacturing, has always been an important partner of the United States in the automotive manufacturing and production industry. But the Japanese no longer place absolute trust in the US in a changing world. Now, Japan's largest automakers are shifting direction. From Michigan and California, they are choosing Ontario as their new manufacturing and research hub. But this is not just a change in factory locations. It is a shift in how Japan views the US in the future. In recent years, Toyota, Honda, and Nissan have begun relocating their manufacturing facilities from the US to Canada, where tax incentives and foreign policy are more stable. The Japan Chamber of Commerce reported that in 2023, 50% of Japanese automobile manufacturing plants have moved to Canada instead of the US, causing the US to lose thousands of jobs and production orders. Meanwhile, across the border, Ontario recorded a 22% growth in the automotive industry, compared to an 8% decline in Michigan during the same period. Although the US has always been a long-term partner, with the fluctuating political and tax situation, Japan may have implicitly decided not to remain tied to an unstable environment anymore. James, a worker at an automobile manufacturing plant in Michigan, who has worked here for over 20 years, shared, "When I started working here, we were always proud to be the place where cars were produced for the whole world, especially for Japan. But now, Japanese companies have moved production to Ontario, and I see orders from Toyota and Honda decreasing. Not because we are not doing well, but because of the changing policies of the US. Japan no longer sees the US as a stable haven. They are looking for a new home, and Ontario is where they find the stability and strong support they need to thrive." The US used to be the sturdy ship leading in automobile production. But now, Ontario is like a high-speed train, effortlessly overcoming all obstacles and welcoming capital from Japan with ease. With this change, the US needs to reassess its automotive and manufacturing industry. To maintain its position, the United States cannot rely solely on traditional advantages, but must seek new solutions, from policy reforms to building more sustainable strategic relationships with countries like Japan and Canada. When you look at major countries like Germany, India, Mexico, France, China, Brazil, Japan, you will see a clear pattern. These countries are not only turning their backs on the US in terms of investment and trade, but they are also seeking new opportunities, looking for a stable and long-term direction. But what is truly shocking is that they are no longer simply changing direction. They are building a new foundation. Do you think this is just a coincidence? Or is it an undercurrent gradually sweeping away the position that the US once held in the world of trade and investment? And even more surprisingly, Not only the major countries, but also emerging economies and nations that once had strong ties with the US are beginning to shift. Nordic countries like Sweden and Norway are signing renewable energy agreements with Canada, reducing cooperation with the US, while the US continues to delay energy policy reforms. Middle Eastern countries like the UAE and Qatar are turning to Canada and Asia to build technology facilities and invest in green industries, instead of the US. The World Economic Forum (WEF) shows that over the past 3 years, investment from Nordic countries into the US has decreased by 18%, while Canada has recorded a 12% growth from these countries, primarily in the fields of renewable energy and clean technology. The US used to be a solid pillar among economies, but now new torches are being lit in Canada and other countries, while the US pillar is gradually losing its stability. These countries no longer sit and wait for the US to act. They have stood up, seeking a different path to follow, like a ship leaving the dock without looking back. If the US does not change its strategy to maintain relationships with global partners, America will not only lose opportunities for cooperation, but also lose itself. It is time for the US to reassess these changes and act swiftly, because if not, the world will continue to turn its back, and the US will be left behind. We, those who once built this America, are witnessing what? A fracture from within, or a silent transfer from the outside that we do not recognize. If Canada, a country that could not be compared to the US before, becomes the world's choice, will we still maintain our role as the only choice for our own descendants? But don't worry, it's not too late yet. If we understand the problem, recognize the changes, and take action right now, there is still a chance for the US to regain its leadership position in the global economy. Which state do you live in? Do you notice these changes happening around you? Please share your feelings and opinions in the comments section below the video. And to better understand the major changes happening in the US and global economy, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on in-depth analyses and the latest updates on the country's situation. The opinions and remarks in the video are purely personal analyses and do not officially reflect any organization or government. Changes in the global economy can be influenced by many factors, and the information in the video may change over time. Thank you for staying until the end. Hello, and see you in the next topics.